Hello everyone, and welcome to RPG DIY, your channel for all things tabletop gaming. I'm Jay, and today we're going to look at a couple books sent to me by Roll and Play Press. They sent me the Fantasy Character Kit and the Game Master's Fantasy Tool Kit. Let's check these out. So here we have the two books from Roll and Play Press. And so the Fantasy Character Kit and the Game Master's Fantasy Tool Kit. We'll start with the Player's Kit. It's got the ring binding, so you can flip it all the way around and let it sit flat. But essentially what you have here are books of tables that you roll on to help flesh out either your character or the world that you're running. So starting with this, the artwork is really great. As you can see right here, the very stylized artwork. The pages are extremely colorful, and the way they do it, you can really see the tables. You can also find everything fairly quickly. So to start with, we'll go to the table of contents here. And so as you can see, you've got, this is the table of contents, and it's divided into the classes of the characters. So you have artificers and tinkerers, barbarians and mercenaries, bards and performers, blood hunters and mutants, clerics and war priests, druids and geomancers, fighters and soldiers, monks and combatants, paladins and holy knights, rangers and survivalists, rogues and lawbreakers, sorcerers and wild mages, warlocks and shamans, wizards and enchanters, and then the acknowledgements page. And they all are broken down pretty much the same. So for instance, they all have like backstory, inspiration, origins and goals, and appearance and items. And then they kind of branch off to specify with the class that you're doing. So for instance, on the paladins and holy knights, you have magical equipment, smite, manifestations, revered tenets, and such. And on the clerics and war priests, after the appearance and items, also has magical equipment, but then it goes to spiritual weapons. For the druids, you have safeguarded sights, wild-shaped quirks, nature's spellcraft. And then, so they're all specific to that class. Now, they also kind of have a name directory that you can start with. Like I said, you pick your race and your class, and then from there you can use this to completely roll your character. So for instance, if you want to roll up, if you can't figure out a name, you can either just kind of look at the list here and decide on one, or you can roll a D100 and see what comes up. So we'll go ahead and roll and see what we come up with. So I got a 31, and 31 here is Sudved, with the umlaut over the U. So Sudved. If you don't like that, roll again. And we'll go 28, which is Krasnatrina. So there you go. Just roll the name. Then from there, it gives you a breakdown of all the different types of races that you can use that are fantasy based. It's very fantasy agnostic. It can be used with any system, 5e or whatever you want. But it does list definitely all the 5e stuff like Tabaxi, Tieflings, Dragonborn, Aasimar. So it gives you a basic rundown of each race, and then it starts going into the particular class. So what we can do is say we'll pick a class here, and let's do everybody's favorite. Let's do Rogues and Lawbreakers. So that starts on page 120, 27, 128. So Rogues and Lawbreakers. So to start with, you have some inspiration for a backstory. And what we're going to do is we're going to roll for your origins and goals. Where did you come from? And this is a D8. So you just take your D8 and you roll it, and I got a 3. So you are exiled from your thieves' guild for upsetting the guild boss, your father. By stealing a hefty sum, you owe a vast amount to an evil wizard, and you're looking for a way to clear your debts. So there you go. Now you have a reason to do what you're doing. So the next page, the appearance and items. This is a D10. So we'll roll that. And a 4. So you wear a tall top hat. The flat top is detaching from the sides and flaps in the wind. There you go. So there's a distinctive feature. The next is your criminal clothing, also a D10. And we get a 5. So with that, thick woolen top and heavy rimmed spectacles. There you go. So if you want a little flair for your character. Now you have suspicious weapons. That is also a D10. We will roll that. So a 4, a long, extremely narrow dagger nicknamed the Skewer. So you could have pocketed trinkets and deceitful items. Both are D10s. So we'll roll the first one, which is pocketed trinkets. A 5, you carry sweets stored in a tinderbox. And for deceitful items, we'll say a 6 here. We got a salt shaped like sugar cubes. Alright. So we go to the next page and we have magical equipment. Now, of course, this is going to be up to your game master if these are allowed or not. But if they are, another D10 for this one. And we've got a 5. So you have a cutlass with barnacled hilt. Its blade is coated with a paralyzing jellyfish venom. Okay. Contraband magic items, also another D10. A 2. So you have gloves that mimic the actions of your hands for 10 minutes after they're taken off. So sort of like a corporeal mage hand, if you will. Alright, so here's some scams and cons that you can run. Illegal ideas. So, this is the D8. So we roll that, and we get an 8. You loudly discuss how sad you are to be missing a fancy upcoming event. Accept any offers to buy your fake invite. There you go. And then you could also roll what you call the scam. Now you can pick based on what you ended up rolling, or we can roll and see if the name fits. This is a D6. Got a 5, so it's called the Uncivil Corset. So 2 5s. So you call your scam the Uncivil Corset. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's okay. And what you hope to gain out of it? A 4. Money to donate to the poor. So you're a fairly noble rogue. So we go to the next page. And here's some thieves' guilds that you know of or belong to. So it's 2D10. So we're going to go here. So for the guild name, we'll do the 1s as the first and the 10s as the second name. So you know or are a member of the illicit enigmas. And then for secret passwords, it's a D10. So it's 10. Bards steal and thieves sing. That's your secret password. So you have a calling card that you might leave at each of your jobs that you perform. It's a D8. So we roll that. We get a 6, so you have traditionally a loaf of bread, but in practice, any type of baked goods. So, that's what you leave at your job. So, probably have to steal the bread first, then leave it. So, if you want to have a safe home that you regularly go to in the city that you're kind of stationed in, or is your headquarters is that. So it's a D8. We got a 4. So what better way to hide stolen goods than leaving them out on display? Using a cluttered back room of a busy antique shop as a hideout helps the guild hide in plain sight. So we go to the next page. Okay, these are your relationships with the party. And it's 20-sided die, so we roll that. And we get a 6. And you can do this for each of the party members. So for the first one, roll a 6. And then you has a blank, so whoever that party member is you chose. We'll say, if you have a paladin, we'll say, the paladin has saved your life twice. You just like this debt. And say there's a wizard, so the next one you can roll for your wizard. A 4. You're willing to overlook the wizard's bad attitude because you respect them. So you can go down the line for all of your party members and do that, so you can get an attitude for each one. So you have friends and enemies over here. So here's some criminal characters you might know. Roll a D8. It's a 2. Cerberus Bisvaron, portly ambassador who runs a large network of assassins. And here's some informants you can use. Also a D8. So a 3. Pharaoh Barone, head of town security who suffers from pox. All right. And that's it for the rogues. Now you can do that for all of the different character classes. And again, they're all specific to that class. They're not all going to have the obviously the thieves guilds or illegal weapons and things like that. They're all going to be a little different. For instance, for the fighters and soldiers, we won't roll down the whole thing, but the different ways to become an adventurer as a fighter is you were a bandit during your teens. Time in jail made you reconsider your choices, such as the time you abandoned your old ally in their hour of need. Now you're seeking them out to make amends. Famous victories, military regiments. You also have the monks and combatants. When you use your key energy you feel, and you can roll for that or choose. So that is an example of some examples from the Character Player's Kit. Now, for the Game Master's Fantasy Toolkit, this is a little different. Same concept, but here you have people and quests, world building, journeys and events, combat injuries, so you have some crit hit tables, items and rewards. So it kind of attaches with your DM's guide to help you build stuff out. So for instance, chapter 1 is people and quests. So here's some character names that you can use for your NPCs and the like. So for instance, you have common names. It's a D20. So if you need a quick NPC, you just roll that, 13. And their name is Steg. Right? And then for magical names, you roll again, a 15, and it's Lucian. You have outlaw names. You have cute names, heroic names, ferocious names, heartthrob names, comedic, and ancient names. Here's some character details that you can roll up really quick. So for their behavior and traits, if you want to make them very unique, this is also a D20. All the types of die are at the bottom of each table. What to roll? 13. So the life and soul of any occasion, he captivates listeners with exciting stories. So that's what your new NPC can do. Here's some appearance and features. Here's your motives that you can have. Here's some villainous origins. And this is adventurer motivations. Common work for villagers, well-paid professions, weapon-wielding careers, performance contracts. And here's some organization names that you can roll on. So you have Adventurers Guild, Mages Guild, Mining Corporations, Order of Assassins, Thieves Society, Clerical, Church, Mysterious Cult, and Bardic College. Okay, so you can decide how the party meets if they haven't already. And you just roll. So for instance, D20 on this. The way the party met was they worked for a group of mercenaries, but has recently disbanded. So they are now kind of left without that group of mercenaries, and they form their own band. If you need a campaign idea, this is the page right here. We'll roll. We come up with a 9. And so a network of underground tunnels has been discovered. Who created them and why? So there's kind of the beginnings of a campaign hook. So now here's your world building section. And you need a quick town. So here's your town features. So for instance, characteristic of the town that stands out, we'll say it's a D8 here, so be a 2. So each building is constructed distinctively, and they have been rebuilt over many battles. So your town's seen a lot of heartache and woe, and they've had to rebuild many, many times. The type of economy you want, the governments and leadership here. You have some local attractions. So natural and man-made wonders in the town, some magical locations in the area, some town crier news, which could also be the start of a plot point. If you need quick market and shop, and it'll tell you what the merchant is selling. So you roll on this. And then here's some shop descriptions. They're fairly generic, so it kind of just describes what the shop looks like inside, not necessarily what the wares are. So you can use any of these. Here's some food and rations, drinks for your tavern. Here's your taverns and inns. So you have a name generator here. Here's an inn. And then the type of what it looks like inside, the prices. You have tavern interiors as well, fairly generic, from extremely elegant to total dive bars. Here's some busking bards that could be out in your town or city. And band names, what kind of music they play, rare and strange instruments that they use. Here's some festivals you can throw in. Games, if your characters are at a social event, you want to do some kind of a game. It gives you a list of them. For instance, for arm wrestling, obviously you're not going to actually arm wrestle, but for arm wrestling in-game, 2 characters roll competing dice in a test of strength. Best out of 3 wins. So they roll a 23 times, add their strength modifier. Whoever gets the highest roll at the end of 3 wins the arm wrestling contest. So journeys and events. So here's the encounters tables are great. You have frozen, forest, desert, deep sea, meadows, urban encounters, mountain, swamp, cave, coastal, and magical. You also have corrupted encounters. For instance, since this is a D12, so a 1, a long jagged portal appears in the air. A raiding party from another world bursts forth and furiously attacks. So that could be something that happens to you on the road, in a cavern, anywhere, if you want kind of a random encounter to happen. So here's some monstrous features. So saying you're looking for a specific monster and you use something out of a monster manual, well, you can give it a distinctive feature to make it stand out a bit, and it might throw off the players who know the monster manual really, really well. So for instance, if you had say it was a minotaur was attacking the town. So it's a D20, and it's a 6. So a distinctive feature is their insatiable hunger. They drool and lick their blood-stained lips in excess. So whenever the thing's attacking and stuff, it could be a distinctive feature of that particular minotaur. You have motives, monster personality, and you have some supernatural patrons, and it gives you how they manifest. their name and their title, if any. Any fiendish contracts you might have. This is great, of course, for your warlocks. Spooky specters. So this gives you different types of phantasms and spirits. The reason they're here in the realm. Dreams that they could have. Nightmares. So some traps. You have the setback to overcome. For instance, D8, so let's try that. So it's a 3, so the setback is a pressure plate will trigger a portcullis to drop from the ceiling, splitting the party. So that happens. They're now on either side of the portcullis and have to figure out how to get back together. Deadly hazards to avoid. You have dangerous doors. I really like this one because everybody can do a mimic, but it's kind of neat to come up with a puzzle door for people to get through. And sometimes it's really difficult. So this one you can just pick. Now, you could roll a d10 -1 since there's 9 of them here, but say a nice view, for instance. This door is made from a flat sheet of glass and the only way forward is to smash it and climb through. Or a crimson cup, an empty trough at the base of the door must be filled with enough fresh blood to make the door open. So that's pretty unique. Alright. So combat and injuries. We love these. So here's your critical hit table with overwhelming force and critical miss with overwhelming stupidity. So for instance, it's a D100. Critical hit, what does that do for 41? So between 1 and 41, this is what happens. Whoa, that looked like it hurt. You score a regular critical hit. Not a big deal. But you could, it says you are able to dodge your enemy's next attack. So you hit them so hard that their next attack you automatically dodge. Now, for just the opposite, also D100. So a 75. Now it goes 1 through 5 to here, and then it's 6 to 8, 9 to 11, 12 to 14. So we got a 75, which is 50 to 100. How embarrassing you missed. I hope no one saw. So not a whole lot, but, or you could get 5. Your attack accidentally hits a nearby ally for half damage. Sorry. So, ranged critical hits and misses. Critical hits with magic. Critical misses with magic. Injuries. Revival side effects. So if you bring somebody back from the dead, this could happen. For instance, they no longer have use of their vocal cords. Strangely, they now can speak in an ancient language. So these are side effects. Illnesses and ailments. Both physical conditions and magical. Deadly diseases. Divine blessings, malevolent curses. And here's some items and rewards. So here's an armory. The type spellbound armor here. Here's some magic items you can roll for. Enchanted items, single-use items. So here's some minor drawback to the magic item. Here's some major faults with it. Here's some alchemical misfires. Potions. Different plant life. Unusual components that they could find. Scams. Bargain spell scrolls. So something as simple as, instead of animate dead, it's animate bread. A ration pack springs to life and sprouts legs. It will have a life for a day or until it takes damage, then revert back. Books and novels that could be on bookcases they find or are researching. The book's defining features. Different types of works of art. Interior loot. Cabinets, drawers, and cupboards. Pickpocket rewards. Looting the body. Alright, so you also have treasure chest fillers and extra quest rewards. And then we go on to the Kickstarter backers, which as you can see, there were quite a few. Now, I really like these books. I wasn't sure what to think of them when I first got them, but after going through them, I really like the layout. I like the artwork. I think they're very versatile and will be extremely valuable to both new players, especially, who haven't quite grasped how a player looks fleshed out, and for game masters who need to come up with stuff on the fly or are a little stuck on how to build their world. So I highly recommend these. And there you have it. Roll and Play Press's Fantasy Character Kit and Game Master's Fantasy Toolkit. I'll put a link down in the description below where you can pick these up. And if you have any questions, put them in the comments below. And as always, like and subscribe and hit the bell icon so you know when I put up new videos. And until we meet again, may you always roll with advantage.